It's September 22nd, 1976. Burmese film actor Ya Wai-ung is born. Charlie's Angels premieres on ABC. And on that same network, the second season of another popular series begins. Welcome to That 70s Review. Hello fellow time travelers, and welcome to That 70s Review, where we look at the shows we loved as kids, and you're coming to love as adults, to see if they hold up. And this time we're looking at the second season of The BIONIC WOMAN. If you haven't watched my video about the first season yet, that may be a good place to start, since I won't be repeating a lot of the background of this show, especially the very, frankly, convoluted ties it has with its parent show, The $6 Million Man. It'll still have those ties to a limited extent this season, but it's worth looking at that video to see just why these two shows are so inextricably linked together, as well as why that link only applies to the first two seasons. Before we launch into a review of the second season, though, let's talk about a few points worth remembering. By the end of its first season, The BIONIC WOMAN had become the fifth most watched television show of the whole 1975-76 season. Only Maude, Laverne and Shirley, Rich Man Poor Man, and All in the Family could beat it. And it even came in slightly ahead of The $6 Million Man that season. While that wouldn't last throughout the entire second season, it still came in as the 14th most watched show overall, only slightly behind its parent show. In every other respect, it was a bona fide hit, and it had an impact on pop culture equal to, and maybe even stronger than, the show that spawned it. Jaime Sommers was everywhere by 1976, as a toy, on lunchboxes, in magazines, and even as a record album.
Jamie, we have reason to believe that John Crawford is a traitor.
John Crawford? Of Crawford Industries?
Mm-hmm.
But he's always been a loyal American. Why should he be a traitor?
We don't know, Jamie, but we do know that Crawford Industries has been secretly developing a disruptor that can stop jet planes in flight.
That's incredible.
Though this one was oddly not produced by Power Records. Seems they were more interested in shoehorning Steve Austin into as many Christmas stories as they could instead. In order to keep viewers tuned in, the producers started the second season of The BIONIC WOMAN by making its first episode the second part of a two-parter that started on $6 Million Man, with The Return of Bigfoot. The bionic Sasquatch had been introduced in the previous season of the parent show, and I distinctly remember how excited we kids were at the time at the prospect of a robotic Bigfoot. The character was successful enough to warrant his own action figure, so it made perfect sense to have a two-parter featuring his return that would start on one show and end on the other. It was also a strategy the producers would use for the three-part story, Kill Oscar. It may come as a surprise to my viewers, since it certainly comes as a surprise to me, that when I watched this two-parter, I wasn't nearly as impressed with it as I was as a 6-year-old. Ted Cassidy, best known for his roles on The Addams Family and Star Trek, makes an impressive Sasquatch, and John Saxon is suitably cast as Nedlick, the leader of the Splinter faction of the aliens trying to control the Sasquatch. But the episode also includes Stephanie Powers and Sandy Duncan as aliens. That's a little more believable with Sandy Duncan, I think.
Wheat thins taste really good, and they're full of natural whole wheat. So they make a terrific snack, right out of the box, or you can put something on top.
On top of it all, some of the aliens sound like they've come to Earth by way of Brooklyn.
I disagree. Well, look at the gauge. Just look at it. Already 500,000 tons of lava have erupted from the volcano. Now, if it hits 900,000, this entire area is going to be blown to bits and be engulfed by the Pacific Ocean.
It's a very odd story, but it's also one that shows how far the character of Jaime Sommers has come in the short span of a season break. One of my viewers commented on the last video that the first season was much more grounded in reality than the second, And they're right. Episodes with bionic Bigfoots, big feet, whatever, and aliens that look like Sandy Duncan are certainly more fantastical than anything the first season gave us. Well, apart from that damn poltergeist, of course. But the second season also moves away from Jaime Sommers being a handy replacement for Steve Austin, and it gives Lindsay Wagner a chance to stretch as an actress, with all the rewards that come with it. This is in fact the year that Wagner wins the Emmy for Best Leading Actress in a Drama Series, beating Michael Learned of The Waltons, Angie Dickinson of Policewoman, Kate Jackson of Charlie's Angels, and Sada Thompson of Family. And as we said last time, this is also the first time a female lead in a science fiction-oriented series had ever won the Emmy, so they must be doing something right this season. Let's take a look at the things that make this season worth watching before tackling the things that might cause some issues. Obviously, the most important strength of this season is Lindsay Wagner. While the character of Jaime Sommers is still doing goofy things, like continuing to use her own name for undercover assignments.
I'm very grateful to you, Miss Sommers, if that is your real name.
She's also going off on a lot of them, posing as a country western singer, a police cadet and then a beat cop, a nun, a car dealer, and even a female wrestler.
And this newcomer here, Savage Sommers. All right, Savage, I don't see your opponent anywhere around here.
I don't either. I have a feeling she heard I was out after a scalp, and she got a little scared, didn't want to come and face me in person, you know.
If that's not enough to test an actress's abilities, I don't know what is. It also helps that, unlike in the first season, the focus of most of the second season episodes is on Jamie's missions, and not as much on her personal life. Steve appears only twice this season, and neither time is their romance well and truly rekindled. Nor are we stuck in her classroom, thrilling to the wonderful world of middle school teaching. In fact, there are only 3 episodes that have scenes in the classroom, and 2 of them are used to decent effect. And yes, we'll be talking about the third one that doesn't, trust me. And while I agree with the viewer who commented that the first season was more grounded, I would disagree with any suggestion that going more in the direction of science fiction rather than secret action agent is a bad thing. Some of the best episodes this season also have its most fantastical elements, mirroring the tendency of a show like Wonder Woman, which was always at its best when its feet weren't planted firmly on the ground. Well, maybe not always. There's also a significant bump in Jamie's confidence level. She's still no superhero, and she still has some weaknesses that her bionics can't cover for, such as her frankly adorable and completely understandable aversion to snakes.
Do you hear them?
Oh, no.
What is it that you're most afraid of, Jamie? Snakes?
No.
That's what's ahead of you in the dark, Jamie. Waiting for you. That's what you'll have to go through to get to the Doomsday device.
But at this point in her career as a secret agent, even if she doesn't always think she has what it takes to get her through a mission, she almost always does. She's still as much fun as she was previously, well developed as a character, without any of the baggage she had from last season's loss of memory. This is probably due to an uptick in the quality of the writing as well, with series creator and producer Kenneth Johnson both writing and directing some of the episodes. In one memorable instance, he both writes and directs a 2-parter, which we'll be talking about soon. In fact, I just have to say, it was extremely difficult this time around to narrow down my usual list of must-watch episodes to just 3, and in fact I had to fudge it a little, as you'll soon see. The fact that there are so many episodes worth watching this time around should ease the minds of anyone who's curious about Season 2. Of course, I say that, but there are also some things this season could do better, and while they're not always damaging to the show as a whole, they may give some viewers pause.
Almost through with your COZI TV teen physical, miss. Just the hearing test.
Okay.
So please raise your finger anytime you may hear the test hasn't started yet. What are you hearing?
16th floor.
Is this thing broken?
Yeah, I think it's broken. This isn't gonna work.
Now, I talked last time about how I wasn't too happy with the theme music, and I've caught a little bit of flack for that. And I have to admit that after having watched another 22 episodes and giving the opening another try each time, it's definitely grown on me. The ending theme, on the other hand, no. Just no. In fact, by and large, for some of the most important episodes this season, the music is quite good. But there are other times when it falls back into what we might think of as typical 70s action music. You know, the chicka-wah, chicka-wah, chicka-wah type that you'd hear on shows like Starsky and Hutch or Policewoman.
What happened? What happened?
As the series goes on, as one might expect, a lot of those cues start getting repeated, with one in particular standing out like a sore thumb. In the episode Sister Jamie, which I personally love even if it didn't make the must-watch list of episodes this time, there's an updated version of Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, that gets used occasionally, and it fits the episode perfectly. There, you see? Isn't that great?
Qui del mondo!
Unfortunately, that same piece of music, in addition to others, gets reused throughout the entire season, and it's less and less fitting each time. You'll notice this is a very minor gripe compared to other things I could be talking about, but once you're aware of it, it's hard not to be aware of it. Perhaps audiences back in 1976 and 1977 wouldn't have remembered those cues from week to week, but binging the episodes in 2022 makes it hard not to hear them. And this entire channel is all about whether shows still hold up after all. Also, up until now, I've not had much reason to knock the special effects, because once you're on board with the visual and oral grammar of the show, there's a lot that can be forgiven. For those of us born back then, a woman running or jumping in slow motion on TV with the ch-ch-ch-ch-ch effect going on the soundtrack automatically translates to super speed. In fact, it looks rather silly in the 1990s when we're introduced to another bionic person who actually is sped up. Now seriously, doesn't that look awful? But one of the reasons I wasn't impressed with the Bigfoot two-parter was, in fact, the special effects, since nothing dates worse than futuristic effects. That tunnel to the alien's lair is super cool, though. But then there's the Night Demon, and trust me, we'll get around to talking about that. If it seems like I'm actively having to search for weaknesses this season, it's because I am. While it's not perfect, since there are at least 1 or 2 turkeys trying to fly this year.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Otherwise, this is an impressive set of episodes. Here are at least 3 you should check out, presented as spoiler-free as possible. In Kill Oscar, a disgruntled former OSI scientist decides to, well, kill Oscar. And to do so, he replaces several of the women around him with robots, or more properly, fembots. Yep, this is the one you've been waiting for. Despite the numbering of the episodes, this is actually a 3-parter, with the first and third parts airing on the BIONIC Woman, and the second part airing on the $6 Million Man. To know exactly how that works, it's best just to watch it. And it really is amazing. Not only does it feature John Houseman as the main villain, who played Lindsay Wagner's father on The Paper Chase, it also introduces the other major villains that this show is best remembered for. Granted, the makeup effects for the fembots may be a little dated, but wow, are they scary. And the cliffhanger to episode 1? Well, it has to be seen to be appreciated fully. There's very little bad to say about this one, and since the fembots will return next season, it's well worth seeing how they begin here. In Doomsday Is Tomorrow, a scientist played by Lou Ayres attempts to blackmail the world into declaring peace by creating a doomsday device that will go off only if nuclear weapons are detonated. And since this is the 1970s, there are of course people willing to set them off anyway. Jamie must go undercover to try to prevent the device from going off, all while trying to outwit the scientist's supercomputer, the Alex 7000. And yes, if that sounds suspiciously like an homage to the HAL 9000, you're not wrong. This is the two-parter I mentioned earlier that producer Kenneth Johnson both wrote and directed, and it's considered by many to be the finest episode of the entire series. Unless there's a better episode coming next season that I haven't seen yet, I have to agree. This one has just about everything going for it, even down to the 2001 references working for the story rather than against it. Alex 7000's cat and mouse game with Jamie is incredibly engaging, and the underlying theme of the dangers of global war is just as relevant today as it was in 1977. There's even a character who drops the C word for the first and only time so far in the whole series.
You're a cyborg!
What? What word did you think I meant? This episode even manages to use foam for a tense scene, and still does it better than Space 1999 did a few years previously. Any show that can use foam and make it scary is a winner in my book. All kidding aside though, this is one episode that no viewer should miss. In Deadly Ringer, Jamie is kidnapped and exchanged with her double Lisa Galloway, who first appeared in the first season. In jail, Jamie can't convince the warden or the guards that she's not Lisa Galloway, and outside, Lisa is becoming more and more convinced that she actually is Jamie Sommers. This is the two-parter that Lindsay Wagner won the Emmy for, and damn does she deserve it. The sequence in which a drugged and hallucinating Jamie is trying to keep herself together is simply amazing, and Wagner even manages to make us feel sympathetic to poor Lisa Galloway, who just wants a better life than the one she's had before. All this makes for yet another strong two-parter this season. I'd be remiss not to mention the episodes that should have made this list, such as the aforementioned Sister Jamie, in which Jamie poses as a nun, and Black Magic, which features an all-star cast of Vincent Price, Julie Newmar, Hermione Battersley, William Wyndham, and Abe Vigoda. It's not a favorite of everyone because there's just too little episode time to give all these fine folks a chance to do as much as they can, but I personally love it. Hell, even the Vega influence, which is essentially the show's bloodless take on The Thing and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, has a lot going for it. Even if they do bring back Jamie's savior and erstwhile boyfriend Michael. Yep, just moved right in there as soon as Steve was gone, didn't you, Mikey?
He likes it! Hey, Mikey!
That being said, the season isn't perfect, and there are at least 3 episodes you do best to miss. As always, spoilers ahead, so if you'd rather not know why these episodes should be missed, you know what to do. In Road to Nashville, Jamie goes undercover as a country western singer in order to investigate another singer, played by Hoyt Axton, who's suspected of passing secret information in his music electronically. As a premise, it seems like it should work, doesn't it? But no, it doesn't. Now, I must admit, years of being forced to watch the Grand Ole Opry by my parents makes me immediately predisposed against this one. Just saying. My dislike of country music has nothing to do with Lindsay Wagner singing, even though the song she has this episode is, well, not great.
It's a good morning, we're getting up, we're singing a right-on song. Nothing can go wrong, and it's getting better.
Even worse, it's a song she was singing with her students at the very beginning of the episode, in the one school scene this season that doesn't work.
Down behind the well, and I'm so glad that I'm living in the country.
Okay, hold on, wait. Someone is not singing, and if we don't all sing, we're not going to win this school talent contest. Right, Pam?
Well, we're not going to win with her help.
Patty?
She's right, Miss Sommers. I can't sing.
Well, honey, how do you know if you don't try?
I'm tone deaf.
Oh. Well, that really isn't what's the most important thing, though. You know, I mean, if you sing, so you're contributing your energy, and then we all have fun, and then it sounds great, right? Okay?
Yeah.
Oy. Come on now, this is everybody's song, okay? I want everybody to sing, and I want you to lighten up, and let's have some fun, okay? From the top of the chorus again. 1, 2.
And it's good to be alive in the morning, to feel the sunshine warming up your face, yeah.
Props to Jamie for being able to multitask and listen in on the bad guys while she's singing, though. This one just has a lot of dumb things going on in it, and worst of all, it's Jamie at times that's portrayed as dumb. Not only is she careless enough to get caught, which happens often enough this season, she even carries an OSI badge while undercover.
OSI. Jamie Sommers.
And we all know that Jamie just isn't that stupid.
Oy.
We're also treated to Doc Severinsen. Yes, that Doc Severinsen, lassoing the bad guy at the end. And naturally, we end with a song.
And I've hit a few in my time.
That's Buck Buckley's song.
Ugh. Pass. In Jamie and the King, Jamie goes undercover as the private tutor of the son of Shah Ali ben Ghazim of the imaginary Gulf state of Almain to keep the Shah from being assassinated.
You are the new teacher, obviously.
I'm Jamie Sommers.
Observe our customs. Bow, woman, bow. Me?
Obviously you.
Ah, Jesus, where to begin with this one? The aim of the episode, much like the book Anna and the King that it's paying homage to, is to show how empty sexism is, as Jamie has to deal with stereotypical Middle Eastern attitudes towards women, and that's somewhat laudable. However, just like the book Anna and the King that it's paying homage to, this episode ends up leaning heavily on those very stereotypes.
Your Majesty, I have some thoughts about Ishmael's lessons. Well, it might sound a little critical. Could we speak alone, please?
We are alone. This is only my wife.
This is my wife. This is my other wife. This is my mistress. This is my girlfriend. This is my sister.
Worse, it casts American actors as Middle Eastern characters, namely Robert Loggia as the Shah and the star of James at 15, Lance Kerwin, as his son, as Middle Eastern characters. Granted, this sort of brown-faced performance was all too common in the 1970s, but man, it really has not aged well. It would probably be considered a broken Aesop these days just based on the casting alone. On top of it all, it's racist, sexist, and every other ist there can be, and certain parts are just too silly to watch these days. Not to mention Jamie getting outed as a secret agent early on again, which really isn't that difficult.
I'm very grateful to you, Miss Sommers. If that is your real name.
Dude, she always uses her damn name. Best to skip this one entirely. And then there's the Night Demon. In this one, Jamie visits a former archaeology professor of hers just after he's discovered a relic in an ancient burial site. And with the words ancient burial site, you already know where this one is going, right? Granted, this one has an impressive enough cast, with Jeff Corey, Gary Lockwood, and John Quaid. But Jeff Corey as a Native American? Really? Then there are the janky special effects for the titular Night Demon, which are appropriately 70s, I guess.
Aye.
And naturally the plot has to do with scaring Corey's character off his land to get the uranium deposits there in a plot lifted straight from Scooby-Doo. There's even a costume, which Jamie, or someone standing in for Lindsay Wagner, wears to scare off the bad guys. A dishonorable mention should go to Assault on the Princess, if only because it brings back Romero, Jamie's overly eager Italian suitor from the first season, and that I simply cannot forgive. Otherwise, most of the episodes have something to offer, even if they're not as stellar as the rest. So after all is said and done, how does the second season of The Bionic Woman rate? I'd give it 4 out of 5 fembots. Apart from a few minor issues, this season is all around improved. Jamie has come into her own as a character, Lindsay Wagner has come into her own as a series lead, and the writing of the show has mostly come into its own as a strong sci-fi drama. There are plenty of episodes I could have mentioned here, and even the poor ones may be worth a look, if only for the comedic value. Unfortunately, speaking of comedic value, the season doesn't end particularly well. The season finale is Once a Thief, featuring the ubiquitous Elijah Cook Jr. as a thief who blackmails Jamie when he discovers her powers, which is just a little rich given how many people she's revealed them to over the last several years. The performances are okay, I guess, but the music is overbearing in that way that only episodes played for comedy ever are. As much of a tragedy as this season finale is, it would have been worse as a series finale, and it almost was. Despite decent ratings and Wagner's Emmy win, ABC decided to cancel it because, well, that's what ABC do, isn't it? In this case, ABC head Fred Silverman, who was obsessed with demographics, felt the show was no longer attracting the kind of demographics he wanted, whatever those were, and so he canceled it. Luckily, just as was the case with Wonder Woman, another network will step into the breach, this time NBC, to produce another season, but with a few little changes. Whether or not those changes are successful, we'll find out next time. And that's it for this edition of That 70s Review. In the meantime, if you want to see more of this sort of thing, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, do that thing with the bell that you do so well, and tell me in the comments what shows from the 1970s that you would like me to cover. Till next time, stay safe and stay groovy.